Hello to everybody in Freedom Talks. We're glad that you're joining us, and we're excited for whatever might be in front of you, and we're hopeful and prayerful for all of your endeavors. So thank you for being with us out there in Freedom Talk land, and we'll see where this goes tonight. I think it was 2 weeks ago I came. Suzanne wasn't here, but I think 2 weeks ago I came. I thought I was talking, but I was not, and was able to eat and just enjoyed a nice drive from Searcy out here and back. So, but that was good. We may have some new folks to me. I'm not sure. Most of it. I always think that I recognize all of you. But I know that can't possibly, be the case. So if this is the first time that we've seen each other, my name is Klay, Bartee. It's on the big screen up there. Does that stay up there the whole time? That's me up there. You may notice that my parents were unable to spell correctly. Klay is with a K. You don't see that very often. My dad saw that in an old Western novel when he was a kid. He was reading a Western book, and one of the characters in there was named Klay with a K, and he decided if he ever had a son, that was going to be my name. I did not get to vote on that. Klay was a rough name growing up with. But then you spell it wrong, it's even worse. And so all of our names, I would imagine that at some point in time you remember thinking, I wish I did not have the name that I have. Are you like that? Do you like both of your names? Yeah, some do, some really do, but a lot of people go, I'm not a fan of my name. Now, my middle name, I could let y'all guess, but we would be here a really long time. My middle name is a family name, and it's Knox, like Knox. And now I think that sounds pretty cool. But when I was a kid, it was very not cool. Because Klay knocks down trash cans, Klay knocks down this, Klay knocks down that, Klay knocks, so when the kids get a hold of your middle name, sometimes that's pretty brutal. So I was not a big fan. There was one redeeming factor. A long time ago, there was a boxer that came along, and his name was Cassius Klay. That's Muhammad Ali. You've probably heard of Muhammad Ali. He originally was named Klay. Now that I kind of liked, because then they called me Cassius, Klay. And I had a tendency to fight anyway, and so that was, it kind of worked out really good. But names are interesting, and they bring you a bit of an identity. Sometimes we like that, sometimes we do not. My last name, Bartee, is pretty unique. You probably don't know many Bartees. We're all related. There's like 2 branches off one tree, and we're all kind of from some weird place. I don't know exactly where, but we're part Native American. We're part, someone that came over from Europe, and that name is fairly unique. I'm fine with that. Part of my identity is connected there. And but you might hear the question sometimes, like, what's in a name? And what's in a name? What is it? My parents sometimes would say, mainly to no avail, you remember who you are. I didn't really understand what that meant. I thought they go, well, I got it. I know who I am, and I know what I'm going to do tonight, and you ain't going to like it. But supposedly remember who you are was supposed to connect me to some meaning that was, I guess, supposed to do something. So, you know, when you're a Christian, or when you take on a name of being a follower of Jesus Christ, okay, I think that has application. I didn't think about that for a long time, but as I represent that name, okay, it brings a bit of a special meaning. I think we grow kind of into that. I don't think there's any one place that we have to be or need to be in that growth process, because everything in life, you know, is going to help shape us. I have to give up on having a better past. You know, my past is my past. What I do now is maybe not quite so much now, but what I did for a long while is I worked real hard on taking all that junk and putting it in these boxes that I call regret. And I set them on this shelf, this imaginary shelf over there. Now, certain advertisers will come in and they had a slogan that was horrible for a while, but it was no regrets, as if you could live and not have any regrets. In fact, the very slogan of no regrets produced a massive amount of regrets. Because if you just think you can go through life and do anything you want to do without, you know, regretting some of it, that's not a good plan. So that old advertising slogan of no regrets, or getting the idea that there's a way to live and not have regrets, I think is very damaging. I spent a number of years being guilty about stuff I had done. I had to swap that for regret. And regrets sit over there. They sit over there on the bench, but they're there. I don't think about them all the time. They don't haunt me, but they're there. Does that make sense? They can sit there. That's where they belong. They belong boxed up and set over there, and if I ever need it or think about it, or if someone asks me or reminds me, I go, oh, yeah, that's a regret. But I'm not guilty. So it's a very beautiful thing to carry a name that makes me not guilty, but also allows me to have a regret sit over here kind of where it's supposed to be. And that's part of my journey, part of my process, is taking those regrets and kind of, I can't really forget them. I can't do anything with them. It's all back there in the past. I don't really need to feel guilty over them. So I box them up and I put them where they're supposed to sit. Does that resonate or make sense at all? You can have regrets. Let's just put them back over there where they belong, okay, out of today's kind of operation. I often meet people working over at the university. If you don't know, I work over at University in Searcy at Harding. People will come in and out through these homecoming and events and things like that, and sometimes they'll go, hey, you know, oh, I remember you. It's very scary for me, because I'm like, I ain't got a clue who you are, and I don't remember you, and you're remembering me for some reason, and there might be a good chance it ain't good. And so I'm often, I often meet people like that, and I say, oh, okay, well, I don't really remember you, but do I need to make amends? Because I'm willing to do that now. you're going to have to tell me what, if I need to or not. And rarely do they go, yeah, you need to make amends to me, but in my mind, I can't, I don't know what actually happened. Can't remember all of that. Maybe a good thing. I started off as a very young boy. I'm an only child. I don't know if I've shared much of those stories with you. I was an only child. My dad was military and worked also in the corporate world. My mom stayed home, did not work. My relationship with my mom was not what you call stellar. My dad and I had a pretty good relationship, but he worked all the time, and my mom did the best she could possibly do with what she had. She didn't have much coming in. She had bad, abusive upbringing. As a kid, I don't know anything about that. I have no idea. I'm just rocking along trying to, do my thing in the midst of, that struggle. Wasn't very nurturing. Never remember sitting on my mom's lap. Never remember a story being read. Never remember laughing or cutting up or much of anything of those type of interactions. No real memory of that. But at the same time, my memory is not like I had it bad. I had stuff to eat, I had clothes to wear, I had a dry place to sleep. I mean, does that make sense to you? It wasn't bad. I don't recollect or remember that in any way as being bad, but there wasn't much of that nurturing and not a lot of emotional expression on my side, other than if someone got mad. If I got mad, I got in trouble. If mom got mad, I might have a bloody nose, which strangely enough to me, I was like, well, okay, guess I'll try to figure this out, but it didn't resonate with me as that was too much of a bad thing. So I was an only child, didn't have a sibling, no one to talk to, lived out in the country, couldn't see a house from my house. The school bus turned around in my driveway. And I don't know if you really know what that means, but that means you're the first one on and the last one off. So it's like an extra 2 hours of your school day, okay, which is horrible. 6:50 I'd get on that sucker, first one on. And about 4:30, 4:45 I'd get off if I wasn't kicked off. Back, these were the days you could get kicked off the bus. Can you imagine that today? They'd go to jail if they kicked you off the bus. I mean, it's a good thing I didn't grow up today, because I wouldn't make it. I'd be in jail. They'd kick us off the bus. We'd be 12 miles from home. And they'd go, "You're misbehaving, get off the bus." We'd cut through pastures and we'd just do our way around. I wouldn't get home till 6:30 or 7. They'd go, "Kicked off the bus again, huh?" "Yeah. There's your dinner." No microwaves now, that didn't exist. There's your dinner, cold as a wedge, sit down and eat. So not much emotional expression, and I remember holding in some of these things as I went. Moved schools. I was in the 4th grade. First day we went out to play kickball. Did y'all play kickball? You remember that? It was a great game. Went out to play kickball. I thought, I'm pretty good at kickball. First day at school, and they divided up teams. So this person went, I'll take them, I'll take them, I'll take them. Nobody's picking Klay. Nobody picks Klay. It gets all the way down to the very last person. This is a co-ed kickball game too, now mind you. Okay, this is a co-ed kickball game in the early 60s. And I'm like, all the girls are picked before me. That's devastating. Okay, shouldn't really be, but it was. But I'm like, okay, they don't know me. So I'm down to the last one, and it falls on this, captain. And I thought, well, okay, by default, I'm going to be on this team. I said, no, we don't want him. It's my pick, but we don't want him. And then the other team says, well, we don't want him. We're not taking him. And so they argue about who's got to take me on the team. I'll never forget that as long as I live. Stand there, I'm okay now, but don't, But I remember that feeling of not belonging, of not fitting in or not fitting anywhere. Can you relate to that?
Oh, yeah.
Can you relate to not feeling like you belong on the planet?
Yes, all the time.
It's crazy, isn't it? And I remember not being chosen, and of course that, I was fairly athletic. I ended up playing college football, so I did okay because once I played, I quickly kind of moved up the ranks, in the elementary athletic pool, to where I was like, then they started picking me. But it's still that first day of school stuck with me. And there were other times that I didn't really feel, a part of. And then I will tell you that my first drink of alcohol, I was 13 years old. I was in junior high. And I remember this feeling of going, aha. Okay. Now I understand. Now I get it. I have discovered the secret of life. Because as a mood-altering substance began to do simple, just what mood-altering substances do, I started organizing around that feeling as if I was becoming one of or a part of. You know what I'm talking about? You actually start to feel normal. There's a lot of people that can't relate to what we're talking about. And that's okay. They don't have to relate to it. We just have to relate. But it was part of that overall process that eventually was so attractive to Christianity. Because in spite of all of the mistakes of what Christian people do when they assemble and form their religious organizations, in spite of all of that which would keep me away from the idea, a real relationship with Jesus Christ ended up being better than that alcohol. I felt a part of something way bigger than myself. And the beautiful thing is that drugs and alcohol were the vehicle that got me there. I regret some of those things, but I'm also ultimately grateful for those regrets. Because without them, I don't know what would happen. If I can't honor those, I think there's a piece of me, a piece of my name that can't follow along. And so I'm grateful. I'm grateful for our struggles. I'm grateful for our regrets. I'm grateful for my mistakes. At the very same time, I hold them with a high degree of regret. I hurt people I love, done things I wouldn't do normally, got away with stuff that I shouldn't have gotten away with. That's the worst, isn't it? That's the worst. If I had been caught all the time and had negative consequences, it might have worked out faster or better. So my invitation is to box those regrets, but don't throw them away. They're part of our name. They're part of you. And they're the very vehicle that bring you into a relationship with Jesus Christ that can be very fulfilling. A spiritual awakening. I think we'll talk about that here in a minute if my brain goes that direction. A spiritual awakening, is kind of what we're after. If you hadn't heard, let's go back to some foundational stuff, because I don't know, we may have a few new folks. I want to talk a little bit about this idea of addiction and kind of touch base on that foundation again. Is that okay? Because I think we need to revisit that occasionally. I do, at least. So I will remind you that our working definition for addiction, is this. It's an abnormal relationship, with a substance, in this case, a physical substance. It's an abnormal relationship with a substance in which negative consequences don't really do their job. So I continue to use in spite of negative consequences. That's an abnormal relationship. Make sense? In addition to, that, a substance is a material. It's an actual substance. We have process addictions as well, that will mimic in the brain some of the things that substance addictions will do, but process addiction can be very addictive, because you can have an abnormal relationship in spite of negative consequences with, let's pick something maybe easy to relate to, gambling. I was too selfish and greedy to get into gambling too much. I don't know why. If I liked it when I won, but it made me shirt-tearing mad, fight you to the death when I lost. So for some reason, that process, did not do anything for me. I gambled plenty. I gambled a lot when I was under the influence, but that was one of the things that helped, because you ever get paid on Friday and not have any money Saturday morning?
Yeah.
Boy, that's a fun life. Work, can't wait till payday. It's 2 weeks at a time. Friday night I get paid. Saturday morning, getting off the floor. I'm like, I ain't got any money. It's 2 more weeks. I ain't got any money. I can't take care of anything. It was a horrible feeling. But anyway, so I'm just saying, the process of gambling in your brain, and people who struggle with that in their brain, all of that dopamine and oxytocin and all those neurotransmitters, they get a similar thing going on in their brain through the process of gambling, but there's no substance that's going into your body. Make sense? So a substance addiction has an additional layer there of challenge, that there's actually some physical things that are occurring, by the use of the substance, with the mood altering stuff that, give us our challenge. Like if you're in gambling, Addicts Anonymous, they're working the same 12 steps, doing the same process of recovery, okay, that we are. And it just happens to be, with that process. They'll win, they'll win, but they can't stop. It's really paradoxical. They actually have to lose, because it's not the winning that does it. It's except the first one after the big loss. Does that make sense at all? If they keep winning, they can't walk off with a pocket full of money, because that ain't it. I got to lose it and then win the big one again. It's that one jolt that pumps the brain with that dopamine. So for a substance, that dopamine and the metabolism, okay, that's kind of haywire that goes in, that produces some physical limitations as well. But it's an abnormal relationship, and the negative consequences are not promoting a change. A normal relationship, remember, negative consequences do what? A negative consequence is going to funnel me to make an adjustment or to make a change. And that's not happening, and that's where the insanity comes in. Because the insanity, as you know, we define, we continue to do the same thing over and over. And that's not even the insane part. The insane part is expecting a different result. That's the insanity. If I keep on doing what I've been doing, I keep on getting what I've been getting. That's sane. Insane is I do what I do and expect it not to happen. I can't control any of this using, and I haven't for 5 years now, but tonight will be different. I'm going to do it tonight. I'm going to set my mind to it. Y'all never said that, I know. I'm going to set my mind to it. The only thing I ever did is put my mind through it. I can't set my mind to nothing. I put my mind through that insanity. So I've got this abnormal relationship. It makes me a bit insane. I get negative consequences. Now we have to look at those. What's a negative consequence? Well, a negative consequence can be anything from I'm losing money, I'm going to jail, I'm hurting my relationships, I'm hurting myself physically, my health is not good, losing money, losing friends, losing family, that kind of stuff, right? Now hang on to this because I think it's important. What I feel emotionally is not a negative consequence. We grew up believing that certain emotions were negative. But an emotion is not a negative consequence. That's one of our challenges, one of our problems, because I think it is, and I know what to do with something I don't want to feel. Make sense? Emotion is not a negative consequence. Going to jail is a negative consequence that can also be a vehicle to recovery. Losing all of my money is a negative consequence that can also be a vehicle that brings me freedom. Make sense? Negative consequences are that way. Feeling something I don't like to feel is not a negative consequence. It's a reality. It's a fact of life. That would be mad, sad, or scared. In life, you will be mad, sad, and scared. Trying to process or deal with that, thinking it's a negative consequence, and using a substance that masks that or takes it away temporarily, that's where we get stuck. So I've got to accept emotion. It's neither positive or negative, just a fact of life. It just is. If you're alive, you will feel. And we've had several talks about all of that. But the foundations of this idea, I think, are important to revisit. Abnormal relationship, negative consequences, insanity. And so programs like this, programs of recovery, are ways in which we trade the abnormal relationship for normal relationship. The normal relationship that goes back and forth between me and life, between me and you, between me and my family, me and anything else. Okay, we need a way to navigate that, okay, normally, which means negative consequences, okay, promote a change. If I don't have enough money at the end of the month, I adjust. I do something. Doesn't mean I magically have enough, but I'm doing something to adjust. Does that make sense? That's a normal relationship. If a person over here is kind of really toxic and unhealthy for me, and every time I come in contact with them, I end up being hurt, that's a negative consequence. So I stay away from them, in as much as that's possible. What if that's your family? Stay away. It's not against the law to stay away from family. It's not preferable. It's not what we want it to be. It's not even how it should be. But sometimes it needs to be, has to be. That's life. It's just life. You come in and you play the hand that you're dealt. And it ain't fair. And it ain't right. It's not good. It's just what is. Normal relationship with each other allows us a way, gives us a way to navigate the reality of life as life is. We can't make it what we want it to be, but we can respond to it, okay, in ways that increase my health. That's why we're here. That's what we're doing. That's why you come, and that's why you engage in these groups and talks and do these, things, and stay away. Find a way to stay away from, chemicals, at least for a good point in time, to where these adjustments can occur. And we do that together. You never have to fly solo. The only time you do fly solo is you're choosing to fly solo. And you don't have to. There's always a way to get help or find some help. So those foundations of this thing called addiction find us, we wind up in places that give us an opportunity to make an adjustment. I guess I've worked in this for almost 30 years in terms of these type of treatments. Early on, I tell people sometimes they get confused, but I was in treatment for 6 years, which I was working, but I was in the inpatient, treatment center, worked for 6 years, and they go, "Man, you're pretty slow." And I'm like, "Yeah, takes what it takes, right? Well, I wasn't actually in, I just worked in these facilities. And it takes what it takes. It doesn't always, come out the first time. So what? Takes what it takes. And if you get there, we get there. I mean, it's not a competition. It's a collaboration. It's a cooperation. If we can eliminate the competition, we have a platform then for things to change. And you've heard me say many a time, don't give up on trying to improve yourself. Recovery is found in accepting yourself. Give up on that competition of improvement. And I know that's what they told you your whole life. Do your best. Be your best. They had no idea they were setting us up. I can't do my best. My best is an impossibility. I can work hard. I can be responsible. I can have a great work ethic. I can do all that stuff, but there's no way to do your best. And that's propaganda from the evil one, and we've all said it. I mean, because we're just a product of our culture, and it's rampant. The motive or the intent is probably a good one, but the message, very dangerous. My best would only, in my mind, be perfection. If I don't do it exactly perfect, there's always room for what? Yeah. Now, I didn't have this experience too much because I didn't make many 99s. But in theory, if I made 99 on some test, had I done my best? Now, you may be like me. I'd be going, you dang straight. I didn't make any of those early. But you see what I'm saying? 99 is not the best. And so it sets us up to organize around ourselves in a very unhealthy way. I don't want you to do your best. Don't want you to try your hardest. Now, I know this is like, what? I mean, that's all we say. I don't want you to try your hardest. I don't even know what try is. That's a crazy, weird word. Try and brush your hair. How do you try? I mean, Of course, I don't have much hair anymore, but the reality is I brush my hair, or I do not brush my hair. I don't. The concept of try. But we grow up with that. It makes some kind of weird sense to us. The problem is, I'm accused of not trying when I know I have been. And that's pretty hurtful, because I have been trying. And you say the only reason that I'm not succeeding in not using is that I'm not trying. And I might hear that enough where I even start believing it. And it gets confusing because there may be times that I didn't, and sometimes I did, and all that. It just gets all mixed up in my head, I don't want you to know that that's part of the process that gives us our name. It's part of the process that takes me eventually to this spiritual awakening. And it's hard to describe a spiritual awakening until you have the spiritual awakening. And I think you have several. I don't think there's just one. I think you have several all along the way, and it's kind of a really neat thing. And if you haven't, if you feel like you have not had a spiritual awakening yet as a result of these groups and these steps, okay, and getting off of these substances, hold on. Just hang on. Because I want you to engage in the development of this beautiful idea called hope. Hope is for everybody. It's out there. Hope can be fostered. Hope can be worked on. Hope can be shared. Hope can be given. You don't have to understand or know how it's going to happen to have hope. It's a neat thing in that step 3 says, I don't have to understand God to be in relationship with Him. That gives me hope. I don't have to get anything right. It gives me hope. And I want you to hold on to that, because some days, I can promise you, that's all you're going to have. And on those days, it's enough. That's enough. I was working with a family today that's struggling through some things, and when I told them that it's okay for you to not know what to do, it was almost as if this light came on. It was like they had never considered the reality that it's okay to not know what to do. Where in the world did that become a sin or a crime or a deficit? I don't know what to do most of my life. I don't know what to do. And sometimes when I don't know what to do, best thing is not do nothing. Sometimes, maybe doing nothing gets me in trouble, but most of the time, if I don't know what to do, I just kind of sit there. If I don't know what to say, I don't say anything. It's okay. You'd have thought I'd unearthed some magical diamonds or something. They just looked at me like, you're kidding. They have a young daughter that's really struggling and they don't know what to do. I said, that's all right. I don't know what to do either. But there's this idea of hope, hope that you can always hang on to. And it's real and it's contagious. And it's something that you can believe in. That's good. I tell people all the time, that I ask them, I'm asking them about hope, or I'm asking them to consider something that's such a monumental change in their life that they can't hardly see it. They can't really believe it, But I'm saying, no, that's possible. You can set a few goals. We can get there inch by inch. It can happen. They just can't believe it. You may find yourself in a spot similar to that. Maybe you've been there. If not, you might get there, because it's pretty common. But I want you to know this. If you can't believe it, can you believe that I believe it? I believe in you. I believe in this process. I believe in hope. I believe in the Great Spirit. I believe in all of those things. And when you can't believe, can you believe that I believe? And that's enough. For that moment, that's enough. And if it's not me, you can fill in the blank with some other person that you know and has meaning for you. You just have to believe that they believe it. It's happened for millions and millions and millions of people. They didn't have a market cornered on smarts or anything else. The program works because it works. The program works because it's a spiritual program. It's not material. Some people make a mistake that those 12 steps are like a checklist. Not really. They're a reorganization of a mindset and an invitation into a different way of relating, in which the spiritual awakening transports me in ways that I never dreamed were possible. A guy came along and asked Jesus one time, says, "What is this salvation stuff you're talking about, or this kingdom of God and this eternal life? What are you talking about? I'm intrigued by this. How do you gain access to these ideas?" And Jesus said, "Well, I tell you, unless you're born again, you can't connect to this kingdom." And so the gentleman, I think his name was Nicodemus or something, the guy said, "Oh, what do you mean? What do you mean born again? You can't be born again. You're born once. You can't go back into your mother's womb and be born again." To which he was correct. But he's talking about what? He's talking about the material, the physical. Jesus was not talking about the physical. He's talking about a spiritual awakening. He said, you're born again. We'll use that metaphor, but it's being born of spirit, of the non-material. The most fascinating thing about us as human beings is we are material and non-material at the same time. They're intricately woven together here. We'll be free from that one day. Thankfully. Hopefully. We'll be free from that woven connection. But while we're here, this material and this non-material are connected together. The spiritual awakening is a gift from the Great Spirit. I received that gift, as you've heard me say many times, I received that gift when I surrender or give up or stop trying really to do it on my own. I put myself in a position to be changed, and that position is called humility. That's where I live, that's where I sit, that's where I try to stay. It's humble. Through those practices, working these steps, having had a spiritual awakening, the steps say, then to the best of my ability, I share this with everybody that I meet. But it's not like I go up and share, hey, let me tell you, this, and this. It's shared intrinsically. It's shared from inside out. It looks like kindness and gentleness and patience and perseverance and humility and self-control. That's not from me, but from somewhere else, because I can't control myself, and I know that more than anybody. I often want to say, but I don't, but I'm going to, it's like magical. People don't like the word magic when you're talking about this, but it's magical. I think it resonates. It makes sense, you know? It's not magic like sleight of hand or I'm doing that, but the experience of that awakening is quite magical. I hope and I pray that you hold on to this idea of hope and that you look for ways to develop it and engineer it. It happens by setting little tiny goals, taking some steps to do that, and to get a few more little tiny goals. You just kind of keep inching along, putting those goals out there, and if you're engaged in that process, you always have hope. You're not always hitting. Y'all know about baseball? Baseball, there's a guy that throws a round ball, and there's a guy that tries to hit it with a round bat. Okay? It's quite difficult. They keep what they call batting averages. So, simply said, a very good professional baseball player hits the ball about somewhere between 3 and 4 times out of 10. That's a professional baseball player. They hit at about 30 or 40%. They strike out, they get out, they go out. I mean, life is not, you're not going to find a program where you can bat 1,000 or 100%, any of that kind of stuff. Life isn't set up that way. We don't have to. You can be a professional human and hit on about 30 to 40%. You know, on a good day, I go, if I can just get to 51% of doing what's right, I think I've won. 51% will get you elected. We won't go there because, man, that's a... Ugh. The lesson is yours for what it's worth. You guys are great. You're so kind to let me come. I always love being with you. I love Freedom Talks.